Hello everyone, welcome back to the final weeks of Faketober. This will be the last video in the series, at least with any new Fakemon, and I'll be covering the remaining 10 entries in the month. I know this is a little late, so I hope it'll be worth it, and you'll like the last set of Pokemon. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, then go and watch those obviously. Plus, you might want to check out the Making New Starter videos too, if you haven't. Just a heads up. Right, without any further ado, here's day 22. Pokemon designs will usually stick to a pretty tight colour scheme, of only about 4 colours maximum. It's an idea in design that I also like to abide by, because it just makes everything easier on the eye. It's not that colourful designs can't be done, just that I'm not proficient enough at that balance to be able to pull it off. So I knew that this was going to be a multi-form Pokemon with different colours, rather than one very colourful large Pokemon. Plus, I had a decent idea for it too. I always managed to find my way back to designing some new frogs, and a poison dart frog was the obvious pick for today. I'm sorry, I just couldn't help it. I love the little guys. Poison dart frogs come in all sorts of types and colours, each one harbouring a deadly toxin that can kill an elephant. The idea was that each colour of frog would be tied to a specific status ailment, one for all 5. I came up with a pretty cute face for this guy. I wanted each one to have a different personality though, so I ended up changing the pose and the way the face interacts with the body on each one. Each coloration is based off another species of frog too, with the fire frog being a tomato frog and the sleep one being a red-eyed tree frog. Obviously it's pretty loose, but there we go. Of course, they're still mainly dart frogs. Right, hope you're keeping track since there's a lot of these little guys. Here are all forms of a Faketober. Faketober, the status spectrum Pokemon, poison and either electric, grass, fire or ice type. Faketober come in many colours. This is because each Faketober produces a different poison that has different effects. Their bodies are used to this poison, and the more they have of it, the stronger they become. Recently, the YouTuber Lockstin, who I'm sure you all know for his wonderful Cascade Region project, made a video on a Rotom form for every type, and it got me thinking about how hard it is to come up with original ideas for Rotom variants. I wanted to have a go though. Now, I'm not saying that this is the most original idea in the world, and I'm sure countless versions exist, but I imagine that this is a spin on the idea that counts for some kind of first. A dark type alarm clock Rotom. I used to be a pretty early riser, but ever since lockdown set in, there's been no sound more evil than the beeping of my alarm in the morning. Plus, the whole theme of nighttime and darkness, it works for a clock. This thing had to look mischievous, and I personally think the eyebrow clock hands were a stroke of at least partial genius on my part. Plus, I like how the plasma around it forms the bells. Definitely a realistic Rotom form in my opinion. Rotom Ring form, the Plasma Pokemon, electric and dark type. In this form, Rotom has possessed an alarm clock. It gives in to its most devilish impulses and pulls pranks on sleeping people by waking them up too early. This Pokemon has earned its dark type. Back in episode 1 of this series, I mentioned that I had an idea for an evolution to my fish and chips Pokemon, Chipper. That Pokemon is definitely still one of my favourites of the whole month. I think it's an incredibly successful, simple design. Unfortunately, the idea of an evolution of a basking shark was incredibly stuck in my mind, and I took any loose excuse to draw it. Basking sharks actually reside in very shallow water, so I was definitely bending the rules of this prompt a lot. I actually had a go at another fake one based on a real deep sea creature, the oarfish. It was actually up alongside this Pokemon on my Instagram for a bit. I realised I was just too unhappy with it. That being said, I'm not super proud of this one either. Basking sharks are weird animals that don't translate super well to Pokemon form, and while I think I did the best I could with the source material, I feel as if Chipper could have stayed as a solo Pokemon. At least the concept is fun, becoming a living, deep fat fryer living in the literal deep of the ocean. The water fire type is cool too. Let me know what you think of this big fella. Filtator, the deep fry Pokemon. Water and fire type. The evolved form of Chipper, Filtator has gained a fiery stomach which can easily fry anything that enters it. This Pokemon has no teeth, instead waits for Pokemon to enter its mouth, where they are quickly fried and swallowed. So, hot take here, I don't really care for Mega Evolution. I know, the temptation to unsubscribe is alluring, especially if you're here from my Instagram and hear me spout this take on my story every other day, but I'll just explain myself. I feel as if almost every Mega Evolution is devoid of any kind of meaningful development of the concept of the original design, and tend to instead just make the Pokemon more complicated and add features. I usually boil this point down to they just add spikes, and honestly, I think it's a fair opinion. So in order to be as stubborn and annoying as possible, I decided to basically do a Jokemon for this day. Today, I would attempt to make the spikiest Pokemon ever even spikier. Enter Mega Pincurchin. I think I could have exaggerated this design a lot more than I did if I'm honest, but I think the spike on spike action going on this design is funny enough. Ironically, the largest spike on this Pokemon actually resembles a power grid, making this design have some genuine substance I didn't anticipate. Somehow, I've found a way to go against my whole joke without even realizing. I'm so self-destructive you wouldn't believe. I imagine the Mega Stone for this Pokemon will be found in Spikemuth. You can laugh now. Mega Pincurchin, the even spikier Pokemon. Electric type. Unable to access the required energy in the Megalus Galar region, it was long unknown that Pincurchin contained some of the rawest Mega Evolution potential in the Pokemon world. Growing spikes from its spikes, this Pokemon is nearly impossible to touch. Alright, so here's an interesting one. Whenever I run out of ideas for a Pokemon when doing one of these prompt lists, I usually go straight to the Cryptid Wiki for some inspiration. A literal list of beasts shrouded in mystery with little but distinct features to go off that allow for easy yet still recognizable abstraction into a Pokemon? Yes please. Plus they're ordered by certain traits, so all I had to do was search by Flying Cryptid and I had my list. The one that caught my attention here was the Atmospheric Jellyfish. Completely non-malicious and with widespread sightings, these guys have become one of my new favourite cryptids. Just these shapes of wavy light in the sky that really do resemble a jellyfish. It's something that would be so beautiful in a fantasy or sci-fi world, but is so ominous in our own. With this Pokemon, I just started drawing with little thought behind secondary inspirations. I just tried to capture the mystery of this cryptid as best as I could. It's difficult to be expressive when creating Fakemon, but I think I managed it here. Even the most thought through features were spur of the moment additions like the UFO body or the Mega Rayquaza ribbons. There was no connection to any concept with these, they just added more intrigue. What's the connection there? Who knows? I certainly don't, and I think that means that I've captured the feel of the sky jellyfish perfectly. Really proud of this one. I think I did it justice. Nudibaro, the atmospheric Pokemon, flying and psychic type. Found all over the Pokemon world, these Pokemon float through the sky and they're extremely large. Despite this, it was unknown for a very long time if they truly existed, as they are rare and difficult to comprehend. They are masters of the sky and are said to come from space.
Iridescent. Showing luminous colors that seem to change when seen from different angles.
Oh, alright. For this Fakemon, I really went in not knowing what the word even meant. Came out with a really fun Pokemon. Funny how that works. Obviously it was difficult to capture any changing colours with a flat design, so I opted to work with an object that is already iridescent. Bubbles. I didn't want to just make a sentient bubble though, so what animals can blow bubbles? Well, dolphins have a blowhole and we don't have a dolphin Pokemon yet. Are dolphins related to anything else iridescent or generally colourful? Yeah, let me introduce you guys to a little thing called Vaporwave. Just kidding, I'm sure you are already aware, but if you're not, then Vaporwave is a micro-genre of electronic music, a visual art style, and an internet meme that emerged around the early 2010s. The art style is based around satirical takes on pop culture, incorporating modern internet imagery alongside 90s web design, early 3D renders, and a slew of generally random seeming and abstracted items that make up an aesthetic that is usually used as cover art or in music videos. And for some reason, dolphins feature in this art subculture a lot. I might be missing context for their inclusion in this mess of pop culture from across the ages, but it certainly gives me an excuse to slather this poor creature in all the glitchcore cyberpunk aesthetic paint I can muster. Poor creature. There's a lot of details in this design, so I hope you enjoy it and can find some of the cool details. Here's Vaporwave. Vaporwave, the wave Pokemon, water psychic type. 30 years ago, tons of radioactive merchandise were dumped into the ocean, causing a mutation that created this Pokemon. Their colours and patterns changed with the beat of their sonar clicks and whistles. When thinking of a concept for this prompt, I thought mostly about ocean pollution, as I really didn't want to just create another sludge monster made of garbage. I began thinking about coral bleaching, a product of pollution and the basis for Galarian Corsola. I'd already done a coral Pokemon for my water starter, but I realised that I could use that fact for this prompt. In fact, looking forward, I realised I could use it for the next few prompts. So, as a decently climactic ending to this series, I'll be creating alternate forms for my starters. I don't know how canon to the Ryoma region these will be yet, but for now I'm just designing these for fun. If you guys like them though, then let me know and I could add them to the decks. For this form of Quetzal Coral, I used Galarian Corsola as a reference because they're pretty much the same thing. I added shrouds of smoke to its body too, and I changed the pose. Definitely has a mysterious presence. Very happy with how this guy turned out. Quetzal Coral, out. The Grey Reef Pokemon, Ghost and Dragon type. As the Ryomian oceans became more and more polluted, Quetzal Coral's environment slowly started to die. This caused a mutation in Quetzal Coral. It is now vicious and deranged, unable to hold back its fury at those who killed its environment. Next up, an alternate form of Carnivulcan. There's not many dragons in Mesoamerican mythos, so I kinda had to reuse an inspiration here. But it's fun to see it used on this specific Pokemon. Obviously, the inspiration is once again the Quetzalcoatl. I'm deciding to use the more bird-like features of the mythological beast to transform Carnivulcan. The Quetzal is a real bird too, so that is the basis for this Pokemon as well. Quetzalcoatl is also a god of knowledge, so to replace the dragon type here, I'm using Psychic. The holier-than-thou type of personality of this Pokemon works well, and the colourful ribbon feathers are great too. Yeah, there's not much else to say about this one. I'm happy with it, and I hope you like it as much as I do. Carnivulcan, Alt, the enlightened Pokemon, Psychic and Fairy type. When living in the fallen Ryomian ruins rather than a city, Carnivulcan came across mountains of ancient knowledge and mutated into this new form. It sits in isolation, pondering over the secrets of the region it lives in. So, the ground type. Many Fakemon artists like to just slap the ground type on any Pokemon that lives on the floor, which is fair enough considering that's what many early Pokemon like Nidoking or Rhyhorn did. Honestly, I find this kind of cheap. I feel like the ground type should really represent the Pokemon. Maybe it lives in a desert, or buries underground, or, well, I don't know. This is a type that's actually very vague, all things considered. Because I don't slap the type on any old floor-dwelling Pokemon, I often find it difficult to work in. However, for a desert-dwelling Frog variant, it works just fine. I know a few people mentioned in my first video that Frog's deviation from the obvious-seeming Sheriff concept was jarring, so here's a ground-fighting Sheriff Frog to make up for that. The Leafy Cape and Vine Whip became the dry tendrils of a tumbleweed, and I gave it many more toad-like elements. I think the pose really works, and it came out looking super cool. This is alternate form Frog. Frog, Alt, the Sheriff Pokemon, ground and fighting type. Living in the desert towns of Ryoma, this Pokemon feels as if it has been a difference in the world and continues to fight crime valiantly. Its whip is dry and extra painful. This Pokemon is coarse to the touch. To finish off this month, I wasn't really sure what to do, so I decided on something simple. A mythical Pokemon seemed to make sense, as those finish off their respective Pokedexes. It needed to be Halloween themed though. The only thing I could think of that didn't have to be the ghost type was a fire and grass pumpkin. How about a pumpkin Celebi variant? I guess it would be called Pumpkabee? I've not got much to say about this one really, just that I hope it's a half decent finale Pokemon for this little series. Hope you've enjoyed it and that you enjoy Pumpkin Celebi too. Pumpkin Celebi, the spooky Pokemon, grass and fire type. This form of Celebi travels through time, making sure every Halloween is filled with a suitably spooky energy. This Pokemon can only be seen once a year. Boo! Don't worry, it's just me. I hope everyone had a great Halloween this year and that you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow my Instagram at RyomaArt. I've recently branched out beyond Pokemon art over there, so if you're interested in my personal characters and other designs, or even if you just like Pokemon, I'd recommend. More videos will be on the way soon, and the very special surprise for the next Ryoma region video I mentioned in episode 1 is coming along very nicely, so stay tuned until then. Make sure to comment what your favourite Pokemon I've made this month is. I mean it, I want everyone to let me know. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a spooky rest of your day. Ciao for now.